LeVar Burton is back, and he wants to bring reading back to the forefront of children's minds. And he has been doing so with his Reading Rainbow app, but now he wants to bring Reading Rainbow to the web and to classrooms across the country. He launched a Kickstarter. It did remarkably well, earning $1 million in a day. As of now, it's much, much, much more than that. It will be funded. And to that, LeVar Burton, he was very grateful.
Kickstarters, I don't know what to say. We've just crossed the $1 million threshold. It is our first day. I am overwhelmed. Thank you so much. This is going to enable us to really, really, really do a lot of good. I am so proud that this community has come together to support this effort, and it's a people's thing. It's the 5, it's the 10, it's the 25, it's the $1 pledges. It's unbelievable, or actually, it's actually very believable. Thank you so much. We are literally changing the world, one children's book at a time. God bless.
That man is an American treasure.
It is. He is.
And
Geordie LaForge,
he will be
and the bringer
remembered
of
for
reading.
a long, long time
He's
for
a cool
what
guy.
he did for our educational system in America.
So it looks like it will definitely be funded a few times over, and that it will be back, Reading Rainbow will be back in classrooms, and hopefully inspiring children to read, or at least vocally reading to them in the field trips, so that they get that, they're able to absorb the benefits of reading.
I have a little bit to say about this, and while I'm so grateful that it did go through, and I think it's a great program, I think we can be a little bit wary of what they're promising, especially with something like Reading Rainbow, which came out in like the 80s, and at that time, it was aimed at kids to enjoy reading and enjoy books. But now what they're talking about is literacy. So we're not going for enjoying books or enjoying reading. We're going for things at like a basic level. Like kids are not getting the basic education that they need to be able to read a sentence, much less a book. So when they talk about things like this and where they want to aim it, it seems a bit convoluted because it's going for not just America, but also the world. But then they talk about releasing things like it's not going to be a VHS tape or something like that a teacher wheels into the classroom. It's on the iPad, it's on the internet. And when you make these big, heavy applications like that, that's not available to a lot of the schools or the countries that they're talking about reaching out to. So when you have something like a lower class classroom that may have a VCR and a TV from the 80s that you could plug in a Reading Rainbow like tape, they're not going to have an expensive computer with high-speed internet that's able to function for the Reading Rainbow program that they're setting out to make.
So you're saying it's not accessible enough?
I think so. From what they're promising, they're saying like, we're going to make this grand thing and we need to go to today's generation that's a connected generation in the mobile world. And the kids that have iPads, the kids that have high-speed internet, those kids aren't the problem. Those kids aren't the ones that need Reading Rainbow the most. It's the kids in the lower class countries, the lower class classrooms that need it.
Well, all the statistics that I read on the Kickstarter page were all focusing on American statistics. So I do think that they are focusing on the U.S., at least initially. The first $1 million was exclusively for the United States of America.
Right.
And I think that a large portion of this money, because there's already an app and there's already that archived library for the most part, is going towards establishing that infrastructure, sending computers and iPads to these schools, making sure that they're able to access the tools that are already being provided. So I think they have that in mind, because I know their initial $1 million goal was only for 1,500 schools.
Right.
Which means that they did need to spend a lot of money at each school to get this going. And it's not for individual kids, it is for schools for the most part.
Yeah.
Right.
But once we hit the $2 million, $3 million, $4 million mark, who knows what they can do with that then in a larger capacity or to other countries.
Right.
Well, they did mention that you're right, the goal is to provide this for free to low-income schools, and I think that does have to deal with their inherent infrastructure of delivering Reading Rainbow. I think the point of this is to make it more accessible, because they had said that while most Americans in the 99th percentile have access to well, not 99, very high number of Americans have access to the internet. A smaller fraction of that has a tablet, an iPad, to watch that. About 33%, I believe, of family households in the US. So the point of this was to make it so it's more prevalent and more available to people who don't have those things. So I know perhaps it's not addressed now, but I certainly hope that they do address exactly how that's happening.
Yeah.
We're still very early in the process of the Kickstarter.
I think the thing that's most inspiring about this story, to me anyway, is that the people that are funding this really don't directly benefit from the product or the service at all. They're doing this as an investment in the future for their kids or other people's kids. You know, giving $100, $200, $1,000 to this, they're really not getting much physical back like you would for an amazing new product.
Some of the perks are like T-shirts and mugs and tote bags, you know,
but
the
that's,
usual
that's
stuff.
negligible.
Yeah.
But it's just
even at the level where you get a voicemail from LeVar Burton or go and meet him, you know, it's not a thing for yourself, it's a thing for others. So this feels like a very altruistic investment.
At first I was a little bit like, oh, is this going to rely mostly on the nostalgia factor?
And I think it
but
has.
It has, but the benefits don't necessarily go to, you know, you or I who are donating money. We're not, you know, we can watch it, but it's not really, we're not the ones benefiting the greatest.
Yeah, and the fact that I watched and loved Reading Rainbow as a kid, and other people did too, you know, maybe that's not enough for me to put $1,000, you know, to this project, but for a lot of people it has been. So people are saying, based on how much they love it and how much they want it to be here for other kids to experience the same thing they experience, they are willing to put their money where their mouth is, and that's great.
I'm really glad that this is happening, though I do have a slight problem that it has to happen like this. Like, we have to have private people putting money in to bring reading back to certain classrooms. I feel like it should be there, but LeVar Burton, I applaud you. I'm very happy that this is happening. Tell us what you think below in the comments of what you think of the Reading Rainbow revival project to bring it back to our classrooms and kids and on the web. And please let us know what you think of that below. Please visit our new Facebook page and please subscribe.